Crime Bullies, we're back. Make sure you like and subscribe. Today, we're diving into a case that's been puzzling folks for over 50 years. The disappearance of three young women, Patricia Blough, Renee Bruhl, and Ann Miller.
Wow.
From Indiana Dunes State Park. It's July 2nd, 1966. A beautiful summer day. These friends are enjoying the beach, and then, poof, gone. Their stuff is still there. No signs of a struggle, nothing.
Yeah, it's so compelling, this case is. Feels like something out of thin air. You have this idyllic setting, a crowded public beach, and then these three lives just vanish without a trace. It's unsettling, to say the least.
Totally. It really grabs you. So let's set the scene for our listeners. Who were these women, and what do we know about their day leading up to the disappearance?
Well, no, Patricia, Renee, and Anne were all in their late teens, early 20s. They shared a love of horses. And in fact, Anne was planning on heading to a horse show in Michigan shortly after that weekend. They seemed like typical young women enjoying their summer.
It sounds like a pretty normal day at the beach, right?
Yeah.
So what happened? Walk us through the timeline of events.
They arrived at the park around 10 a.m., set up their spot on the beach, and spent some time swimming and relaxing. Around noon, they were seen talking to a man in a white boat with a blue interior. That's the last confirmed sighting of them.
Okay, so we had this interaction with a mysterious man in a boat. That's got to be a major focus of the investigation, right? Did anyone else on the beach that day remember seeing this boat? Or the man?
That's the problem. The description of both the boat and the man were incredibly vague. Imagine trying to pick out one white boat with a blue interior from potentially dozens. On a busy summer day at a popular lake, it's like trying to find a specific grain of sand on the entire beach.
You're telling me. And the man's description wasn't much better.
Not really. Witnesses said he appeared to be in his early 20s, well-built, and had dark hair. Again, a pretty generic description. Could fit a lot of people. Makes you wonder if there's some small detail, something seemingly insignificant, that someone might have observed but didn't think was important at the time.
Like, what if the boat had a dent on one side? Or the man was wearing a unique piece of jewelry, something that could have helped narrow things down.
Exactly. Those seemingly minor details can sometimes be the key to breaking a case wide open, but without them, investigators were left with very little to go on.
So when was it realized that the women were actually missing? I mean, did anyone see them leave the beach?
There are no confirmed sightings of them leaving. Later that afternoon, park staff noticed their belongings. Purses, towels, sunglasses, left unattended on the beach. It was as if they had just vanished into thin air.
Wow. I can't imagine the feeling of finding those belongings and realizing that something was very wrong. Did the initial investigation uncover any clues about what might have happened?
Unfortunately, not really. Despite a massive search effort involving local authorities, the Coast Guard, and even the FBI, no additional evidence was found. There were no signs of a struggle, no distress calls, nothing to indicate what had become of the three young women.
It's almost like they stepped off that beach and into another dimension. So with so little to go on, what were the initial theories about their disappearance?
Well, with such a baffling lack of evidence, investigators had to consider all possibilities. One of the initial theories was accidental drowning.
That makes sense, considering they were last seen near the water.
Right.
But Lake Michigan can be dangerous, right?
Absolutely. It's a huge body of water with strong currents and unpredictable undertows. It's sadly not unheard of for swimmers to be caught off guard and swept away.
But wouldn't their bodies have been recovered eventually? You'd think at least one of them would have washed ashore.
You would think so, and that's one of the biggest challenges to the accidental drowning theory. Lake Michigan does have its secrets. Water temperature, depth, currents, and even the lakebed composition can affect whether and how a body resurfaces.
So while drowning is possible, the lack of bodies after all this time does make you wonder, what were the other theories investigators considered?
That leads us to the possibility of abduction, which is where that man in the boat becomes a central figure.
Okay, but you mentioned earlier that the description of the boat was pretty vague. Couldn't it have just been a coincidence? Maybe they hitched a ride with someone heading to a different part of the lake?
It's possible, of course. But investigators had to consider the darker scenario. What if this man intentionally lured them onto his boat?
That's a chilling thought. But what would his motive have been? And where could he have taken them with so many people around?
Those are the million-dollar questions. As for the motive, it's anyone's guess. We're talking about 1966 here. Maybe he saw an opportunity to take advantage of these young women on a relatively secluded part of the beach. And Lake Michigan is vast, with numerous inlets and coves. even access to other waterways. It wouldn't have been impossible to quickly move them to a less populated area.
That paints a disturbing picture for sure. It makes you think about how easily someone can disappear, even in a crowded public place. Were there any other theories, besides accidental drowning and abduction?
There is one more that emerged years later, but it's based more on rumor and speculation than concrete evidence. It's often referred to as the pregnancy theory.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting. Tell me more about this pregnancy theory.
The theory hinges on the rumor that Ann Miller was pregnant at the time. Now remember, this is 1966. Society was very different then. An unwed pregnancy carried immense stigma.
So you're saying the social context of the time plays a role in this theory?
Absolutely. If Anne was pregnant, she might have been desperate to keep it secret. The theory suggests the trip to the dunes wasn't just a casual outing, but a cover for her to obtain an illegal abortion.
Wow, that's a dark turn. But it would explain why they might have been secretive about their plans, or who they were with. Is there any evidence to support this theory? Any indication that Anne is actually pregnant?
Unfortunately, no. There were whispers and rumors, perhaps a friend she confided in, but nothing concrete. The theory suggests that something went terribly wrong during the procedure, resulting in the deaths of all three women. Their bodies would then have been hidden. To cover up the crime?
It's a horrifying thought, but it would explain why their bodies were never found. It also adds another layer to the mystery of the man in the boat. Was he just a random predator? Or was he somehow involved in this potential cover-up? It's like adding a puzzle piece to an already incomplete picture. You think you're getting closer to the image, but it just makes things more complicated. So we have these three main theories, each with its own set of unanswered questions. What stands out to you about these theories? Which one feels most plausible and why?
Honestly, it's impossible to say with any certainty. The lack of concrete evidence makes it incredibly difficult to lean definitively in any one direction. That's what makes this case so fascinating and frustrating at the same time. We're left with a lot of what-ifs and maybes.
It's like a choose-your-own-adventure story, where every path leads to a dead end. It's heartbreaking to think about their families, left wondering what happened after all these years. The not knowing must be agonizing.
Absolutely. It's a testament to the enduring power of these mysteries, that even after decades, with advancements in forensic science and technology, we still don't have answers. It underscores how much we still don't know, and how even in seemingly safe, familiar places, the unthinkable can occur.
It makes you wonder if there's a tiny detail, something seemingly insignificant, that was overlooked back then, that could unlock the truth of what happened to these women.
It's entirely possible. Cold cases often hinge on a fresh perspective, a new interpretation of existing evidence, or even a tiny clue that suddenly becomes relevant with the passage of time.
So for our listeners out there, imagine yourself on that beach in 1966. You're enjoying a beautiful summer day, completely unaware of the tragedy unfolding around you. What would you have noticed? Could there be a small detail, something you observed, but dismissed as unimportant? That might hold the key to solving this mystery. It's definitely something to ponder.
It is. The Indiana Dunes disappearances serve as a chilling reminder that sometimes, even with our best efforts, answers remain elusive.
So where does the case stand today? Is it still considered an open investigation?
Officially, yes. The case remains unsolved and open, though there haven't been any significant breaks or new leads in decades. It's a cold case that periodically resurfaces, prompting renewed interest and speculation. But so far, those answers we're seeking remain just out of reach.
Well, maybe one day, with a bit of luck and a fresh set of eyes, the truth about what happened to Patricia, Renee, and Anne will finally come to light. Until then, it remains a haunting reminder that some mysteries endure, challenging us to keep searching for answers. True crime, no bull.